Welcome to Solo Travel Adventures, my sisters. Don't let fear hold you back from traveling alone. I want you to gather your courage, listen to inspiring stories, and learn how to travel solo while safely navigating new places from this show. I'm Cheryl Esch, solo travel advocate and travel coach, and I want you to have a transformative experience when you travel solo. So pack your bags, book your flight, and check one more time for that passport. It's time to explore the world. Hey, welcome back, sister travelers. My question to you today is, what travel style are you? Well, I've identified 5 different travel styles based on personality mostly and what your desires and wants are in a trip. So let's get started. Your first one that you might identify with or have seen for sure is your typical budget traveler, also known as maybe the backpacker. Obviously, these are people that don't spend a whole lot of money on their trips. So they have everything they need on their back. They stay in hostels typically, or they couch surf, or even do a free stay through a company called Trusted House Sitters, where you can stay at someone's home and watch their pets or even their house while they are away for free. And so these are types of, or maybe just you camp. A lot of budget travelers or backpackers will do camping, and they'll carry their tents with them. Maybe they're doing some hiking. And so there are some pros and cons to all of these travel types. And for the budget traveler, obviously you have some pros of that you are not spending a whole lot of money, right? So even if you don't have a whole lot of cash, planning a trip based on a budget or using your backpack could be an option for you, and also depending on where you decide to go. The con of budget travel or backpacking in itself is that you do have to move around a lot, or you do move around a lot, and that could be a pro as well. For example, if you're getting on and off trains, it's a lot easier if you have a backpack versus you dragging that suitcase along, especially if you're going somewhere where there's cobblestones. Walking in a city with a backpack on your back is so much easier than dragging a suitcase around, and so having everything on your back, that could be a pro and con. It could also, if you have back issues, it might not be the best option for you, because after a while, that is going to wear on your shoulders and your back especially. So, that's something to consider. When you travel as a budget traveler and a backpacker, and you're staying in places where you're sharing space, there, of course, is less personal space. So that would be a con, possibly, unless you're maybe an extrovert and you love being around people like that. But I believe we all like to have our own personal space from time to time. So this could be a challenge if you are a backpacker or budget traveler. Finding that space to be alone, maybe. I think we all need a little bit of that. So those are some pros and cons of a budget traveler. Number 2 is our luxury traveler, the complete opposite of the budget traveler. These are people that are spending all kinds of money to travel in luxury. They are likely already, they have a travel agent that has probably done all their booking for them as well. They are staying in, places like maybe the Ritz-Carlton or some posh places, or they're staying in a yacht off of the coast of Ibiza, or, it's just that kind of luxury. These people, maybe money is not an issue, or maybe it's that one time of a lifetime trip that you've planned and you want to do it right. You want to do it in luxury. And so maybe that's you. You don't need to worry about packing light. You can take as many suitcases as you want, usually as a luxury traveler. The thing about luxury travel, yes, the pros and cons, here we go. If you have the money, then there really isn't a con, right? There isn't any negativity. Then you have the right to just go ahead and spend that money. And if you've been saving for a while and you feel good about doing this luxury travel trip, then go for it, I say. So money, of course, could be a con, but if it's not an issue, then it's a great option to see the world in luxury, feeling a little more posh and not having to stress about where you're going to be, what you're going to eat, and making sure you have accommodations that are suited for you, like showers, right? And bathrooms, right? Another con is, so the pro, of course, is that you get these luxury amenities, right? And it's definitely something that, I think at least we as Americans have gotten really used to. So the con, though, is people that travel this way. And if you are surrounded by other people that are traveling in luxury, staying at high-end resorts or hotels, there's less community. People tend to keep to themselves that are traveling in this manner. And so that would be something to consider if you want to develop some community or meet some people. But if you don't, and you have the money to spend, go for it. Get that luxury trip in and be that luxury traveler and take as many suitcases as you want. I know that's kind of a big deal. People try to travel with one suitcase or one carry-on, but you don't have to worry about that as a luxury traveler. The next travel type is number 3, those that tend to buy packages or resorts or goes on tours or maybe a cruise. So this all kind of fits in to that, I'd say, prepackaged kind of traveler. You don't want the hassle of doing any of the planning and any of the figuring out. So you kind of source that out, whether it's a cruise line that, that's all taken care of for you, of course, or you go to a resort and everything, again, is sort of planned out for you, or you buy some sort of travel package or a tour with some group that, again, everything's all planned out. And yes, you can be a solo traveler and still join some group tours. As I mentioned before, there are even some group tours that cater to solo travelers. And so there'll be multiple solo travelers maybe in that group tour. So the loveliness about this kind of travel, I would say it can be a pro or a con, is you do get to meet other people. If you have joined a travel group, then you're going to be around other people day in and day out. So you'll probably make some friends or at least some acquaintances, people that you might want to keep in touch with. Cruises and resorts, all that stuff. It's amazing because you don't have to think about anything, right? It's all taken care of for you. And so that's a wonderful, positive thing about these types of travel. And, if that's you and you don't like to worry about that kind of stuff, you don't have the brain power or the bandwidth or the knowledge to plan anything like that extensively, then maybe doing a package deal is the way to go for you. Now, the downfall of these types of travel or trips is it could limit, especially if you're in a tour, could limit what you do and then even the time you have to spend. For example, if you go on a group tour, your day is planned from the minute you arise till the minute you go to bed, typically, all right? They might be kind enough and give you a sliver of, okay, you have about an hour to go explore the city on your own. But in general, if you are maybe driving around and they're going to make these quick stops, maybe you see something else along the way that you wish you could stop and see. Then if that is you, then group tours might not be the right idea for you. But again, there are pros and cons to each of these, right? So weigh them out and also look at your personality. What is your personality? Do you like a little more freedom? If you do, then maybe the resort or package kind of tours traveler is not suited for you. All right, our next one, number 4, is just your typical touristy traveler. Okay, so these are people that just want to go to some of those well-known places. Usually they're cities or they are landmarks that are very well-known, maybe the wonders of the world, right? So these are known places. For example, if you're talking about cities, maybe it's London or Sydney or Paris or New York City. So these are just typical touristy kind of places that someone might plan to go to. And that's fine. You want to just kind of be in the action. You want to see these big monuments. Maybe you want to go see the Leaning Tower of Pisa or get to Rome, right? Or go to Athens and see all that old architecture and the ruins, right? So that would just be your typical tourist traveling. These are kind of vacationers, holiday travelers. Maybe that's you. Maybe you only get 2 weeks out of the year like we do in the U.S. Then this might be the way to go. Now, these can be planned on your own, or you can look into maybe some local tours once you get there. But again, you're going to probably have to do a little bit of your own kind of planning, do a lot of the footwork on your own. So maybe if that's overwhelming for you, then you can reconsider maybe a package or a group tour. The pros for this one is that you can have more flexibility in your scheduling because you're doing that on your own, right? The cons are it's going to be crowded typically if you're looking to just hit a lot of those touristy spots. You're always going to have a lot of people wanting to do the same thing as you. So if you're not really into crowds and you still want to get to some of these places that are really well known, then consider going, definitely not in the summer, going maybe the shoulder season, which is flanking before and after summer, or even go like in the dead time. Now that weather-wise might not be conducive in some situations, but you're going to have less crowds. So you have the flexibility, but then you have to maybe deal with crowds if this is the type of traveler you are, and that's fine. The final type of traveler that I have identified, number 5, is your adventure traveler. Now, I am an adventurer, but there are extremes to this as well. So there are different modes of adventure travel, of course. These are people seeking thrills and being more outdoorsy and active types of travel, types of adventures. These are the people that want to zip line through the rainforest. They want to skydive off a cliff, or they want to hike maybe K2, something very dramatic like that, right? Or it could be something as simple as hiking the Appalachian Trail here in the U.S., or the Camino in Spain. Those are still adventure travels. I will say, in most cases, when you're talking about some extreme adventure travel, those can be very expensive. For example, to plan a trip up one of those 14 peaks is very expensive. I think I had even heard to plan for a hike up to Mount Everest, actually. I think somebody spent $80,000. And so this is also making sure you have that travel, that insurance that they need you to have in case you do need to be helicoptered out and all that kind of stuff. So those types of trips can be expensive. So that would be a con on that end. But you could also still be an adventure traveler and do something a little less expensive. For example, hiking the Appalachian Trail. It can take you 5 to 6 months. Now, that is a lot of time away, so that is a commitment. And typically that can cost, you can get away with probably $30 a day on that trip. And I think it's very similar if you hike the Camino. The Camino is only about 35 days, at least the Camino Santiago. There are several different Caminos. So those are a little less expensive, but still requires quite a bit of a commitment. So that would be your kind of the cons on those. However, the pros on that is if you are truly outdoorsy and you love adventures, you are not going to be disappointed with any of these types of trips. So you're going to have that freedom again to kind of have that thrill of being, maybe in nature, communing with nature, and meeting people along the way as well is typically the case. Other people that are of like mind, a lot of positive feedback on those types of trips if that is you. So just to recap, the 5 that I have identified is we have our budget traveler backpacker. We have number 2, our luxury traveler. Number 3, our cruise, resort, tour traveler. 4, we have our adventure traveler, just seeking thrills, being outside, being more active. Or the final one, your 5th one, is a typical touristy traveler. And so those people, I forgot to mention, usually stay in just your average hotels or your Airbnbs possibly. And I'd like you to consider, what way do you like to travel? And a lot of this is based on your personality for sure. So if you don't like to get dirty and don't like to sleep in tents or, be outside, then, that adventure traveler idea, or maybe even the budget traveler, might not be what you're going to be doing. It definitely doesn't fit in your personality. For example, my one sister, well, actually probably both my sisters, would not, we did go camping as a family along when we were young, and man, they hated it. They absolutely hated it. So they're definitely not your budget or adventure travelers. They would definitely be more along the lines of your typical touristy or even upper end luxury travelers. That's what their personalities lend themselves to. I personally tend to lean towards more of that budget traveler, backpacker, because I want to have more authentic adventures. And also some adventure travel. I do like that. I'm not into like hiking those 14 high peaks that are over 8,000 meters. That's just a little too much for me. And so I'm a little on the low end of maybe a hiking part. But I do like adventures. I like ziplining. I like being out in nature. And I like to do it on a budget, though. I don't want to spend $80,000 to get to the top of a mountain. So consider your personality, what you like, what you're willing to do as far as spending and planning, because even the planning part can lend itself to a different style of traveler. So I hope you will consider that, and then hop into my Facebook page. I'm going to have a little survey there. I'm just curious to know what type you identify with, or you can leave a comment on the show here. So let me know what type of traveler you are. And remember, sisters, be bold, be fearless, take that leap, and let's go on an adventure. Hey, sister travelers, did this podcast inspire and encourage you or move you to get out there and travel? Wonderful. There are 3 ways you can thank me. First one is leave a written review for the show on Apple Podcast. 2, share the show with your sister travelers, your friends, your family. And 3, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And thank you again for listening to the show. Sisters, be fearless, take the leap, and get out there and have an adventure.